Follow me. 2 words that would redefine 3 lives on a biting November night in Atlanta when a black single father discovered a young, paralyzed woman asleep on the cold ground next to a deserted MARTA bus stop. She had been there since the previous day. He knew he couldn't abandon her to another night of shivering misery. But the events that unfolded after he brought her into his home would demonstrate that the most fractured souls can sometimes assemble the strongest families. "Ma'am, are you okay?" The question sliced through the chilly Georgia air. Marcus Brennan stood motionless outside the 24-hour Walgreens, his Ford F-150 idling at the curb. In his hand, he clutched a small paper bag containing medicine for his ailing daughter. Yet it wasn't the cold that had arrested his movement. It was the form huddled against the bus stop across the street, not on the bench, but on the unforgiving concrete beside it. The young woman raised her head with a slow, weary motion. Even under the weak glow of the streetlight, Marcus could tell she was no older than her mid-20s. Her blonde hair was tangled and dull, her face thin and pale, but her eyes held a profound exhaustion that made his own chest feel tight. "I'm fine," she murmured, her voice a fragile whisper. "Just waiting." Marcus checked the time on his phone. 11:47 p.m. The last bus on this route stopped running close to 11. "It's almost midnight," he said gently. The woman attempted to adjust her position and winced, a sharp intake of breath betraying her pain. "I know. I don't have another place to be right now." The words seemed to crystallize in the space between them. Marcus's hand instinctively found the warmth of his jacket pocket, where the fever reducer for his daughter, Maya, was waiting. His 7-year-old was at home with their neighbor, Mrs. Petrova, her small body radiating heat, waiting for this medicine. He had to go. Any logical person would have already driven away. He had his own child to worry about, his own life. The world was full of problems he couldn't solve. Still, he asked, "How long have you been out here?" "Since yesterday," she confessed, then hastily added, "But I'm okay. Seriously, I've handled worse since yesterday." The phrase struck Marcus with the force of a physical blow. This young woman had been sleeping on the pavement in a wheelchair for more than 24 hours in the damp November cold, and she was trying to assure him she was fine. He found himself walking across the quiet street, his own knees aching in protest as he crouched to her level. "What's your name?" "Clara," she answered after a moment's hesitation. "Clara Hayes." "I'm Marcus. Marcus Brennan." He stood up, a nervous habit causing him to run a hand over his short, cropped hair. The motion dislodged his wallet from his coat pocket, and a small photograph fluttered out, landing near her. Before he could retrieve it, Clara reached for it, her movement surprisingly deft. She gazed at the picture, him and a little girl with a cascade of braids, both of them beaming at the camera, wearing matching sashes from a father-daughter dance. "You have a daughter?" she asked, a subtle shift in her guarded expression. "Maya. She's 7 and has an opinion on absolutely everything." His voice softened, as it always did when he spoke of her. "We lost her mom, Simone, 3 years ago. It's just been the 2 of us since then." The confession felt sudden and raw. Marcus hadn't intended to share something so personal, but something about this stranger alone in the darkness made the truth surface. Clara handed the photo back to him with care. "She's beautiful. She has your smile. She has her mother's everything else," he said, tucking the photo safely away. Then, before his rational mind could intervene, before logic could shout down the insistent pull of his conscience, he spoke again. "Follow me." Clara looked up, her face a canvas of confusion. "What?" "Follow me," Marcus repeated, his voice firmer this time. "The temperature is supposed to drop tonight. You can't stay here. I can't pay you. I don't want your charity. I'm not offering charity," he countered. "I'm offering a warm room for the night. My daughter is sick. I need to get this medicine home to her, and I can't drive away knowing you're spending another night on the concrete. I just can't do it. You don't know me," she whispered, her fear palpable. "I could be dangerous. I could be anyone you're not," Marcus said with a certainty that surprised even himself. "Dangerous people don't spend time worrying about whether they're dangerous." Clara stared at him for a long, silent moment, her gaze searching his face for something. Sincerity, a threat, perhaps just a reason why a stranger, a black man in a pickup truck, would stop for someone society had rendered invisible. "Why?" she finally asked, her voice barely audible. "Why do you care?" Marcus considered giving an easy answer, something about doing the right thing or basic human decency. But as he looked at this young woman who had been ignored by everyone for 2 days, he offered her the unvarnished truth. Because 3 years ago, just after my wife passed, I was standing in a pharmacy parking lot just like this one, holding Maya, feeling completely lost. I had no idea how I was going to get through the night, let alone raise my daughter by myself. An old man stopped. He saw me crying, and he said something that probably saved me. He just said, "You don't have to rush through this grief, son." He stayed with me for nearly an hour, just talking, until I felt like I could breathe again. I never even learned his name. Marcus extended his hand. "So, I'm asking you, let me be that person for you tonight. Just for tonight. Tomorrow, you can go back to handling things on your own if that's what you want. But tonight, please, follow me." The November wind gusted, rattling the plastic panel of the bus stop shelter. In the distance, a siren wailed and faded. The neon sign of the Walgreens flickered. And in that quiet, charged moment, Clara Hayes made a choice that would alter the course of her life. She took his outstretched hand. Getting Clara into the truck was a careful operation. She insisted on managing most of it herself, transferring from her wheelchair to the passenger seat with a practiced efficiency that belied her obvious fatigue. Marcus folded the wheelchair, which was heavier than it looked, and secured it in the truck bed with the bungee cords he always kept behind the seat. "It's not a long drive," he said, settling into the driver's seat. "Maybe 15 minutes." Clara nodded, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Now that she had accepted his offer, the enormity of her trust seemed to weigh on her. Following a stranger home in the dead of night, Marcus understood the immense courage it required. "Tell me about Maya," Clara said suddenly, her voice soft. "What's wrong with her?" "A fever and a cough. It started yesterday morning, but it got worse tonight. She's a tough kid, though. Tougher than me most days." Marcus turned onto Ponce de Leon Avenue. "She tried to convince me she was well enough for school tomorrow because they're doing their volcano projects." "Volcanoes?" A faint smile touched her lips. "I loved those projects when I was a kid. I made one with my grandmother once. Mother. Baking soda and vinegar, the whole 9 yards. We put in red food coloring and dish soap for extra foam. The kitchen was a complete disaster. It was the first personal detail she had volunteered, and Marcus stored it away. Raised by a grandmother then. No mention of parents. Maya's is supposed to erupt tomorrow. She's been working on it for weeks. It's a papier-mâché model of Mount St. Helens. She even researched the actual eruption patterns." He glanced over at Clara. "She gets the perfectionism from her mother. And what does she get from you?" "The stubbornness," Marcus said with a wry grin, "and the inability to leave a situation alone." He was rewarded with a sound that was almost a laugh. They drove in a comfortable quiet for a few minutes. The truck's heater finally began to blast warm air, and Marcus saw Clara's shoulders relax slightly as the chill receded from the cab. "Can I ask?" Marcus began, then stopped himself. "I'm sorry. You don't have to answer anything you want to know about the wheelchair," Clara stated. It wasn't a question. "I want to know if you're okay," Marcus corrected gently. "The wheelchair is just a part of that." Clara was silent for so long he thought she wouldn't reply. Then, as she stared out at the passing streetlights, she began to speak. 2 years ago. It was a construction accident. I was an electrician's apprentice. I was good at it, too. A section of scaffolding collapsed at the job site. It was a 3-story fall. She paused, her breath catching. The company claimed I violated safety protocols. I didn't, but their lawyers were better than mine. I lost the workers' comp case. I lost everything while I was in the hospital recovering. That's not right. "A lot of things aren't right," Clara said quietly, "but you learn to adapt. Or you don't make it." Marcus turned into his neighborhood, a quiet subdivision of modest brick ranch houses with small, neat yards. Porch lights cast welcoming yellow circles in the darkness. He saw that the living room light was still on at the house next door. "That's my neighbor, Mrs. Petrova," Marcus explained, noticing Clara tense up. "She watches Maya when I have to run out. She'll probably come over tomorrow to check on us. I should warn you, she will try to feed you. Resistance is useless." "Are you sure about this?" Clara asked as he pulled into his driveway. "I could. There might be another shelter with a bed. Or—" "I'm sure," Marcus said firmly. He walked around to her side to help with the wheelchair, but Clara was already transferring herself out of the truck. her movements marked by an independence born of necessity, even in her exhaustion. The house was nothing extraordinary, a 3-bedroom that needed new paint and had a front step that groaned a little too loudly, but it was warm and it was safe. And in that moment, that was all that mattered. "Let me go check on Maya first," Marcus said, unlocking the front door. "Make yourself comfortable. The kitchen is through there if you're hungry. The bathroom is down the hall." He hesitated, a sudden thought striking him. "Is it accessible? I mean, can you—" "I'll manage," Clara assured him. "I've gotten very good at managing. Go check on your daughter." Maya's room was dimly illuminated by the soft glow of her galaxy-themed nightlight. Marcus could hear the rasp of her breathing, still congested, but steadier than it had been when he left. He placed a hand on her forehead. Definitely cooler. The earlier dose of medicine must have finally kicked in. He gently woke her enough to give her the new dose, stroking her braided hair back from her face. "Daddy," she mumbled, her eyes remaining closed. "I'm right here, sweet pea. Did you get my medicine?" "I did. And something else. We have a visitor who needs our help for a little while. Is that okay? Like when we helped that robin with the broken wing?" "Yeah," he whispered. "Kind of like that." "Okay. Can I meet them tomorrow?" "If you're feeling better. Go back to sleep now, baby." She was already drifting off again, one arm wrapped tightly around her stuffed giraffe, Mr. Longneck. When Marcus returned to the living room, he found Clara hadn't moved from just inside the doorway, as if she were afraid to venture any further into their space. "I don't want to be a burden." "You're not." "Are you hungry? I can heat up some soup. There's leftover chicken and wild rice. It's Maya's favorite when she's sick." Her stomach chose that moment to rumble loudly, and a faint blush colored her pale cheeks. "Maybe a little hungry. Have you ever witnessed someone trying not to weep over a simple bowl of soup?" Marcus watched as Clara took her first spoonful of the reheated meal, her eyes closing as if she were savoring a 5-star dish instead of something from a carton that he'd doctored with extra carrots and celery. "When was the last time you ate?" he asked softly. "Yesterday morning. The shelter had breakfast before my time ran out." "The 30-day limit," he murmured, and she looked up, surprised. "You know about that?" "My company does some volunteer work. The Gateway Center, right? They're good people, but they're stretched so thin." "They tried to help," she said, looking down at her soup. "They gave me a list of other places, but they were all full. Or they didn't have wheelchair access. Or—" She trailed off, taking another spoonful. "It doesn't matter." "I've slept in worse places." "It does matter," Marcus said with quiet intensity. "You matter." The words seemed to fracture something inside her. She set her spoon down, her hands trembling. "You don't understand. Nobody just helps people anymore. There's always a catch, always something they expect in return. So what do you want from me? Because I need to know right now, before I get comfortable, before I let myself believe this is real." "I want you to be safe tonight," he said, his voice steady. "I want you to be warm. I want you to eat until you're full and get a night of sleep without having to worry about freezing or being hurt. That's it. That's all I want. Nobody does that for free." "My wife did," he said, the memory of Simone's boundless generosity suddenly sharp and clear. "Simone would have had you inside with a blanket and a cup of hot tea before I even finished parking the truck. She believed in helping first and asking questions later. She would have said it was the only right thing to do. And you. What do you believe?" He thought about it, truly considered the question. "I believe that we're all just trying to find our way through. And sometimes, on the really dark nights, we need someone else to hold a lantern and remind us that the morning is coming." They sat in silence as Clara finished her soup. Then a second bowl. Then a grilled cheese sandwich Marcus insisted on making. As she ate, the dam of her silence began to break. She spoke of small things at first, how she had been an honor student in high school, how she had earned her apprenticeship through a competitive vocational program, how she had been saving for college when the accident changed everything. "I was going to be an electrical engineer," she said, her voice filled with a phantom ambition. "I had it all mapped out. Work during the day, classes at night. I was good with circuits, understanding how power flows, how to make things connect and work." "You still are," Marcus pointed out. "The accident didn't take away your mind." "No, but try convincing an employer of that. They see the chair first. Most of the time, they don't see anything else at all. It was nearly 2 in the morning when Marcus showed Clara to the spare room. It served as a storage space for boxes and Maya's outgrown toys, but the bed was made with fresh linens and the heater vent was open. "This is too much," Clara began, her voice thick with emotion. "It's a bed and a roof," he countered gently. "That's not too much. That's the bare minimum of human decency." He paused at the doorway. "The bathroom is right across the hall. There are clean towels in the linen closet. If you need anything—" "Marcus." Clara's voice stopped him. "Why did you really stop tonight?" The honest truth. He turned back to face her, the dim hallway light casting long shadows around them. "You want the truth? When I saw you sitting there, I saw every night I felt invisible after Simone died. Every night I sat in Maya's room after she was asleep, wondering how I was going to find the strength to make it to sunrise. I saw someone who needed to be seen, truly seen, and I couldn't drive away from that." Clara nodded slowly, a silent understanding passing between them. "Thank you," she whispered. "Get some rest," he said. "Tomorrow will figure itself out." But tomorrow arrived more quickly than either of them had anticipated. At 6 a.m., Marcus woke to the sound of unfamiliar voices, Maya's high-pitched giggle mingling with another voice, one that was patient and warm. He followed the sound to the kitchen and froze in the doorway. Maya, still in her brightly colored pajamas with her hair in a state of wonderful disarray, was sitting at the table while Clara deftly wove her hair into an intricate braid. "Dad," Maya announced, her face beaming. "Miss Clara knows how to do a fishtail braid. A real one." "I can see that," Marcus said, his mind struggling to process the scene. His daughter, who was usually shy and took weeks to warm up to new people, was chattering away as if she had known Clara her entire life. "She's in a wheelchair," Maya had informed him with the matter-of-fact gravity of a 7-year-old. "Like Professor X from the X-Men. She already told me about her accident, and I told her about Mom and Mr. Longneck. Did you know she can fix electrical stuff?" "Maya, let Miss Clara breathe," Marcus said, starting the coffee maker. "It's fine," Clara said, securing the end of the braid with one of Maya's purple hair ties. "She's been telling me all about her volcano project." "Sounds like you have a future scientist on your hands. It's supposed to erupt today, but I don't think I can go to school," Maya said with a sad little sigh, followed by a cough for dramatic effect. "Definitely staying home," Marcus confirmed. "I'll email your teacher." "But my volcano—" "We'll wait until you're feeling better," Clara said gently. Real scientists never rush their experiments. That first day established a pattern none of them could have predicted. Marcus called in to work, using one of his saved sick days, and the three of them existed in a strange but comfortable bubble. Clara, it turned out, had several ideas for improving Maya's volcano, involving extra baking soda and a bit of soap to make the lava foamier. While they worked, Marcus tackled the mountain of laundry and bills that had accumulated. The day felt, for lack of a better word, normal. It felt like a family. "She's really smart, Dad," Maya stage whispered to him while Clara was in the bathroom. "And she doesn't talk to me like I'm a baby." "I noticed," Marcus said, watching his daughter's face glow with an excitement he hadn't seen in months. Later that evening, while Maya was napping on the couch, Claire insisted on examining an electrical outlet in the kitchen that had been sparking intermittently for weeks. "You don't have to do that," Marcus started to say. "I want to," she insisted. "It's dangerous, especially with a child in the house." She studied the outlet with a professional's eye. "Do you have a toolkit?" 20 minutes later, after Marcus had shut off the breaker, she had diagnosed and fixed the issue, a loose wire that could have easily started a fire. "You saved us," Marcus said, genuinely impressed. "You saved me first," Claire replied simply, her gaze unwavering. 3 days turned into a week. Marcus returned to his job at the manufacturing plant, but Clara stayed. She fell into a rhythm of helping with Maya, of bringing a quiet order to the domestic chaos that had lingered since Simone's passing. She insisted it was a temporary arrangement, just until she could figure out her next step. "The shelter might have a bed open next week," she mentioned on day 10, her voice carefully neutral. "Right," Marcus said, his stomach tightening. "Or there's a transitional housing program downtown I'm looking into." "Maya would miss you," he interrupted, then cleared his throat, feeling awkward. "I mean, if you left so suddenly." "She's gotten attached, just Maya." The question remained unasked, hanging in the air between them. The second week brought a more established routine. Clara would get Maya ready for school, while Marcus made breakfast. They would eat together, the three of them, a silent agreement passing between them not to name what they were becoming. Marcus would drop Maya off on his way to work, and Clara would spend her days navigating the labyrinthine bureaucracy of social services, applying for jobs online, and facing a constant stream of rejections. "Another no," she said one afternoon when Marcus came home early to find her staring at her laptop, her shoulders slumped. They say they're an equal opportunity employer, but the moment they hear wheelchair, the tone changes. "Their loss," Marcus said firmly. "You've already fixed 3 things in this house that 2 different handymen told me were unfixable. House repairs don't pay the bills. They do if you're an electrician or an electrical engineer. I never finished my degree." "So finish it," he said, as if it were the simplest thing in the world. "With what money? And how? Online programs cost just as much as in-person ones." That night, long after Maya was asleep, Marcus found Clara sitting in the darkened living room, staring at the wall. "Talk to me," he said, taking a seat in the armchair across from her. "I'm scared," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm scared that I'm getting too comfortable here, that Maya's getting too attached, that I'm—" She stopped, unable to finish the thought. "That you're what?" "That I'm starting to feel like I belong somewhere again," she confessed. "And that's terrifying, because this isn't my home. This isn't permanent. This is just kindness with an expiration date." Marcus moved from his chair to sit beside her on the couch. "What if it didn't have to have one?" "Marcus, no. Listen. You're good for Maya. You're good for this house. You contribute. You help. You make things better. Why does it have to be temporary? Because that's not how the world works. People don't just take in strangers and let them stay forever. And I will not be a charity case. I won't be the poor, paralyzed girl you took pity on." "Is that what you think you are to us?" he asked, his voice low and serious. "Isn't it?" "No," Marcus said firmly. "You're the woman who makes Maya laugh so hard she snorts her milk at breakfast. You're the person who fixed the death trap outlet and the leaky faucet under the sink and the squeaky hinge on the back door. You're the one who helps with homework and argues with me about which superhero movie is the best and makes this house feel less empty. You're Clara, just Clara. The wheelchair is part of your story, but it's not all of you. Not to us." The moment stretched between them, fragile and momentous. Then a small voice from the hallway shattered the quiet. "Dad? Miss Clara?" "I had a bad dream." Clara moved first, her response instinctive and maternal. "Come here, little one." Maya scrambled onto the couch, burrowing herself between them and curling into Clara's side. "I dreamed you left," she whispered to Clara. "You went away like my first mommy did." "Oh, sweetheart," Clara said, her voice thick with emotion as she wrapped her arms around the small, trembling girl. "I'm right here. Promise you won't leave." Clara looked at Marcus over Maya's head, and he saw the conflict raging in her eyes, the deep desire to comfort this child battling the profound fear of making a promise she might not be able to keep. "I promise I won't leave without saying a proper goodbye," she said finally, her voice careful and measured. "And I promise that for as long as I am here, I will keep you safe and loved." "Okay," Maya mumbled, already succumbing to the pull of sleep. "Okay." Have you ever watched someone realize they've come home? Marcus saw it happen to Clara in that instant, holding his daughter, being needed, being wanted, being family. The third week brought the phone call that changed the trajectory of everything. Marcus came home from work to find Clara in the kitchen, weeping silently, her phone lying on the table in front of her. "What's wrong?" He was by her side in a second, a cold dread seizing him. He was afraid a shelter had called with a space, afraid she was about to tell him she was leaving. A law firm called, she managed between sobs, about my accident. A witness finally came forward, someone who was recording a video on his phone near the construction site that day. It shows everything. That I followed every single safety protocol, that the company was negligent. That's good news, right? "They want to reopen my case," she said, looking up at him, mascara smudged beneath her eyes. "They think I could get a full settlement. Medical bills, back pay, even money for school." She stared at him, her expression a mixture of disbelief and hope. This could change everything. "That's amazing, Clara." But something in his voice must have given away his own fear. She reached out and grabbed his hand. "This doesn't mean I'm leaving." "Not right away. The legal stuff will take months, maybe longer. And even when it's all over—" She paused, her grip tightening on his hand. "Marcus, you and Maya, you saved my life. Literally. I don't know what would have happened to me if you hadn't stopped that night." "You would have survived," he said. "You're a survivor." "Maybe," she conceded, "but surviving isn't the same as living. You reminded me what living feels like." The legal process was agonizingly slow, but hope is a potent fuel. Claire approached the fight with the same methodical determination she brought to fixing a faulty circuit. Marcus provided support in any way he could, driving her to meetings with the lawyers, watching Maya during long conference calls, and just being a quiet, steady presence in the moments when the weight of it all threatened to crush her. In the meantime, life continued its forward march. Maya's volcano finally erupted at the school science fair, earning her a blue ribbon. With Claire's guidance, she built a simple circuit to power a light bulb for her next project. Marcus, under Claire's patient direction from her wheelchair, learned to cook something other than soup and grilled cheese. "How did Simone ever put up with you in the kitchen?" she teased one night as he scraped burnt chicken into the trash. "She did all the cooking," he admitted. "I did all the dishes." It was a well-balanced system. "Well, now you get to do both," Clara said, but she was smiling. "Worth it," Marcus replied, and he meant it. Mrs. Petrova from next door had her own opinions, which she shared freely over the back fence. "About time you had some help with that child," she told Marcus loudly one Saturday. "A little girl needs a woman's influence." "Mrs. P, you've been giving her plenty of woman's influence." "Not the same, and you know it," she huffed. "That Clara, she's good people. Got steel in her spine, and not just the medical kind." 4 months after she arrived, Claire enrolled in online courses for electrical engineering. She set up her laptop at the kitchen table every evening, studying while Maya did her homework beside her, the two of them a picture of focused determination. "You're a good influence on her," Marcus said one evening, watching them from the doorway. "She's a good influence on me," Clara countered without looking up from her textbook. "She makes me want to be better." To show her that a setback doesn't have to be the end of the story, Maya looked up from her math worksheet. "Miss Clara, when I grow up, can I be an engineer like you?" "You can be anything you want, sweetheart." "Then I want to be like you and Dad," she declared. "Someone who helps people." Marcus saw Clara blink back tears before turning a page. 6 months. The seasons turned. The chill of November gave way to the humid promise of a Georgia spring. The settlement was moving forward, and it was clear that Clara would soon have enough money for her own place, her education, a completely fresh start. "We need to talk," she said one evening after Maya was in bed. Marcus's heart sank. This was it. "You're leaving." "The opposite," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "I want to stay. But I need to know if that's what you want too. Really want. Not just allowing it because you're a kind person." She took a deep breath. "Marcus, let me finish. I love Maya like she was my own. I love this house, this life we've accidentally built together, and I love this family. But if this is just a convenient arrangement for you, if I'm just a good babysitter who helps with repairs, then I need to know now." "You're not the babysitter, Clara," Marcus said quietly. "You haven't been for a long, long time." "Then what am I to you?" Marcus considered all the complicated ways he could answer, the careful, measured words he could choose. Instead, he opted for the simple, unvarnished truth. "You're the person I look for the second I walk through the door. You're the one I want to tell about my day. You're the person Maya draws in her family pictures at school, right between me and her." He paused, gathering the courage for the final, most important part. "You're the woman I'm falling in love with. I have been for a while now." The kitchen was silent, save for the low hum of the refrigerator. Outside, Mrs. Petrova's wind chimes tinkled in the spring breeze. "I can't have children," Clara said suddenly, the words stark and painful. "The accident. There was damage. If you want more kids, I want you." Marcus interrupted, his voice firm. "Maya wants you. We want this family. The one we already have. I'm in a wheelchair. And I snore, and I can't cook, and I still forget to put the toilet seat down. We all have our challenges, Clara." "Marcus, be serious." "I have never been more serious in my life. Your wheelchair doesn't change a single thing about how I feel about you. It's a part of you. And I love all of you." Clara rolled her chair closer to where he sat, taking his hands in hers. I love you too, both of you. But love isn't always enough to make things work. No, Marcus agreed. But love and choice together? That's enough. And I choose you, Clara. I choose us. Every day. Even on the hard days when accessibility is a pain, or people stare, or... Especially on the hard days, she finished for him. That's when choosing matters most. 18 months after that cold November night, the settlement check arrived. It was substantial, enough to give Clara genuine freedom. She could afford her own fully accessible apartment near Georgia Tech. She could start over, completely independent. They told Maya over dinner, gently explaining that Clara now had her own money and could get her own place if she wanted. Maya's fork clattered onto her plate. You're leaving. Maya, Clara started. You promised. Maya's eyes welled with tears. You promised you wouldn't leave without saying goodbye, but you also promised to keep me safe and loved. And you can't do that if you're gone. I don't have to leave, sweetheart, Clara said quickly. I have choices now. Then choose us, Maya cried, her small voice filled with a pain that broke Marcus's heart. We chose you. Dad chose you that night at the bus stop. I chose you when you braided my hair. We keep choosing you every single day. Why won't you choose us back? Marcus watched Clara's face crumble. Oh, baby girl, I do choose you. I choose you every single day. Then stay. It's not that simple. Yes, it is, Maya insisted with the unshakable certainty of a 7-year-old. Love is simple. You love someone. You stay with them. My first mom couldn't stay because she died. But you're not dying. You're just scared. Out of the mouths of babes, Marcus thought, watching Clara absorb the profound truth of their daughter's words. You're right, Clara whispered. I am scared. I'm scared of being too much trouble, of not being enough, of taking advantage of your dad's kindness. My dad's not just kind, Maya said firmly, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. He loves you. I heard him telling Mrs. Petrova yesterday when he was fixing her fence. Marcus felt a flush creep up his neck. Maya, it's true, and Miss Clara loves us. So, why is everyone making this so complicated? That night, after Maya had cried herself out and fallen asleep on the couch nestled between them, Marcus and Clara sat in the quiet darkness. She's not wrong, Marcus said softly. No, Clara agreed. She sees things with perfect clarity. So, what do you want to do? Clara was quiet for a long time. I want to use some of the settlement money to modify this house, to make it fully accessible for me. I want to finish my degree. I want to contribute equally to this family financially and in every other way. And I want... She paused, her vulnerability laid bare. I want to marry you. Someday, when you're ready. If you ever are, Marcus's breath caught in his throat. Clara, I know it's fast. I know we've only known each other for a couple of years. But when you know, and I know I want this. With you. Forever, 2 years to the day. After that November night, the backyard was decorated with strings of white lights and Maya's handmade paper flowers. Mrs. Petrova had invited the entire neighborhood, declaring it the social event of the decade. Marcus stood at the makeshift altar, an arch of garden lattice entwined with ivy, and watched Clara come down the grassy aisle in her wheelchair. She wore a simple white dress and the most brilliant smile he had ever seen. In his vows, Marcus said, 2 years ago, I thought I was rescuing you from the cold. But the truth is, you rescued us. Maya and I were surviving, but we weren't really living. You taught us that being broken doesn't mean you're worthless, that being different doesn't mean you're less than, and that the best families are the ones you find in the most unexpected places. Clara's vows were a response to Marcus, who saw me when I felt invisible, who offered help without conditions and love without limits, and to Maya, who shared her dad with me when she didn't have to, who taught me that love isn't about being perfect or whole by the world's standards. It's about showing up, staying present, and choosing each other every single day. I choose you both, today and always. Maya interrupted their first kiss as husband and wife to wrap her arms around both of them, declaring loudly, "Finally! Now can we have cake?" The reception was a joyful, chaotic affair in the backyard. There were potluck dishes from neighbors, music playing from an old Bluetooth speaker, and Maya was teaching everyone a modified version of the electric slide she had invented so Clara could participate in her chair. "No regrets?" Marcus asked Clara as they watched Maya try to teach Mrs. Petrova the new dance moves. "Only one," Clara said. "What's that?" "I wish I'd just said yes the first night when you asked me to follow you. Would have saved us all a lot of time." "No," Marcus said thoughtfully. "We needed the time. We needed to choose each other over and over again to build this the right way." "The right way," Clara repeated, her smile radiant. "From a bus stop to this. Best detour I ever took," Marcus said, spinning her chair gently in time with the music. Today, 5 years after that fateful November night, Clara runs her own electrical consulting firm specializing in accessible design for public and private buildings. Her business card reads Clara Brennan, CEO. She loves the sound of it every single time. Marcus still works at the plant, but he no longer takes on extra shifts. He coaches Maya's soccer team and has taken up baking with more enthusiasm than skill. Maya, now 12, is the star of her middle school science club and recently won the district science fair with a project on adaptive technologies she co-developed with Clara. Last month, her English teacher assigned an essay on the topic of heroes. Maya stood at the front of her class and read, "My hero isn't someone famous. Actually, I have 2 heroes, my dad, Marcus Brennan, who stops to help strangers even when he's scared and tired. He taught me that kindness isn't just about being nice, it's about taking action when you see someone in need. And my mom, Clara Brennan, who proves every day that a wheelchair can't stop someone from standing tall. She taught me that family isn't about blood or being perfect. It's about choosing each other, especially when things get hard. 5 years ago, my dad made a choice at a bus stop that changed our lives forever. He chose to see someone who needed help. He chose to act. And that choice gave me my mom. Some people think heroes wear capes or have superpowers, but my heroes drive pickup trucks and fix electrical problems and make terrible pancakes on Sunday mornings. Real heroes say, 'Follow me,' to a stranger and mean it. Real heroes choose love over fear. Every single day, Maya got an A+ on the essay. But more importantly, she asked to read it aloud at her mom's company's 5th anniversary party last week. There wasn't a dry eye in the house, including her parents. That night, as they tucked Maya into bed, yes, at 12, she still liked being tucked in sometimes, she asked them a question. "Do you think she knows?" "Knows what, sweet pea?" Marcus asked. "My first mom, Simone. Do you think she knows about our family now? That we're okay?" Clara and Marcus exchanged a look over Maya's head. "I think," Clara said carefully, "that love doesn't just disappear when someone dies. I think your first mom's love is part of what brought all of us together. Her love for you and your dad made you both the kind of people who could open your hearts to someone new. So yes, she's still a part of our family. Always," Marcus added, "just like you'll always be a part of ours, no matter where life takes you." "I'm not going anywhere," Maya declared. "Even when I'm old, I'll just build a bigger house for all of us to live in." After she fell asleep, Marcus and Clara sat on the front porch, watching the stars, the same stars that had witnessed their first meeting 5 years earlier. "Ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't stopped?" Clara asked. "I try not to," Marcus said honestly. "It hurts to think about." "I would have survived. I always did before. But Marcus," she turned to face him, her expression serious. "Surviving isn't living. You didn't just save my life that night. You gave me a life worth living." "You gave us the same thing," Marcus said, taking her hand. "Before you, Maya and I were just going through the motions. You brought the light back into this house. We saved each other," Clara said simply. "The best rescues always work that way," Jacob agreed. They sat in comfortable silence, the autumn air crisp and cool around them. November again. Their month. Their beginning. "Marcus." "Yeah?" "Thank you for stopping, for seeing me, for everything, Clara." "Yeah?" "Thank you for saying yes, for following me, for staying." A car drove past, its headlights sweeping over them for a brief moment. 2 people who had found each other in the darkness and had chosen together to step into the light. Somewhere else in the city, another person might be sitting at a bus stop tonight, cold and alone. Someone else might be driving by, wrestling with their conscience, debating whether to stop. Someone else might be one small act of kindness away from a completely different life. But that's the thing about kindness. It multiplies. Maya had already started volunteering at the Gateway Center on weekends, bringing her friends along. She had organized a wheelchair basketball tournament at her school to raise awareness and funds. She had stood up to bullies who used words like crippled or invalid. Everyone's dealing with something, she would say, with a wisdom that belied her years. Some people's struggles just show more than others. And Clara, she now employed 6 people, 2 of whom also used wheelchairs. She had established a scholarship fund for students with disabilities pursuing degrees in engineering. She spoke at schools about resilience, adaptation, and the power of refusing to give up. But mostly, she just lived, fully, completely, joyfully. She lived in the house with the custom ramps and the widened doorways and the kitchen island built to the perfect height for her chair. She lived with the man who saw her not as broken, but as whole. She lived with the daughter who called her mom and meant it with every fiber of her being. She lived with the knowledge that the worst thing that had ever happened to her, that terrible accident, had somehow improbably led to the very best thing. Not because suffering has some intrinsic meaning, but because people give meaning to suffering through the choices they make. Marcus chose to stop. Clara chose to trust. Maya chose to love. And together, they chose to build something beautiful and strong from the broken pieces life had handed them. It all started with 2 words on a cold November night. Follow me. 2 words that meant you are not alone. You matter. You are seen. 2 words that became a bridge from despair to hope, from loneliness to family, from merely surviving to truly living. Love isn't about finding perfect people. It's about finding people whose imperfections fit perfectly with your own. It's about seeing someone at their lowest and choosing to lift them up, not out of obligation, but because you can't imagine doing anything else. It's about understanding that follow me isn't just an invitation. It's a promise. A promise that says your struggle is now our struggle. Your joy is now our joy. Your life is now a part of our life. And that promise, that single extraordinary promise, changes everything.